you are interested in how psychedelics can boost spiritual development, then this video is for you. The vast array of proof is out there that psychedelics can be used for spiritual healing and development, and the two most common substances, likely because they are the most easily accessible, are LSD and psilocybin mushrooms, or known as magic mushrooms. While these two substances produce very similar effects on the user, there are some key differences. It's important to note that every person is affected differently by these substances, so no two experiences are ever the same. Also, the dose one takes plays a crucial role in the effect. The differences that I'm going to point out today are based on my own personal experiences, as well as other people's experiences I've read or watched about on YouTube. Let's get into it. Now, there are many differences between these two substances, but I would say the number one difference is that magic mushrooms brings out the more primal aspects of our nature. The main theme among the majority of magic mushrooms experiences is that it's very connecting to Mother Nature, and being in the outdoors is one of the most profound ways to experience the mushroom. Considering that both LSD and mushrooms have the ability to completely dissolve our ego, making us realize that it's all fake and really all we're doing each day is putting on a costume, it makes sense that, as this ego slips away on mushrooms specifically, that our more primal aspects of ourselves, the id qualities, are extremely profound. At smaller doses, and at higher doses as well, we may often find ourselves craving sex, due to our primal urge to reproduce. We may have a desire to just absolutely scream at the top of our lungs for seemingly no reason other than it just feels right, and that somehow we feel like it could somehow cleanse us. On higher doses, and this is my personal experience and not something I see as much in other people's trip reports, but I felt as if I was purging my body of all my demons in the form of shitting and barfing. But the thing was, I wasn't actually shitting or barfing. I just felt like I was. I would mimic the motion of throwing up, but nothing would come out. But I felt like something was. And whatever those things were I guess you could say my demons or dark energy within me. This can directly relate to people's experience of purging while on the ancient healing medicine ayahuasca, which contains the psychedelic compound DMT. Another thing I felt on a high dose of mushrooms was that I literally felt like I was giving birth. It was really, really strange, and that's weird because I'm a guy. Somehow I felt a powerful energy just running throughout and all around my whole body, and this energy had sort of a sexual and primal vibe to it, and at one point I was under the impression that I was literally about to push another human being out of myself. And of course, this makes no sense, but all these primal feelings such as wanting sex, giving birth, purging through pooping and barfing are so prevalent on mushrooms, specifically on higher doses, and not as much so on LSD. These primal qualities can be prevalent on LSD and were so for me, but were just less intense. For me, as well as many other trip reports I've listened to, LSD is where a large bulk of the realizations about this world we live in occur. Mushrooms seem to be much more introspective, and I'll get into that in a bit, but LSD, for me at least, and also many others, is more about revelations about the outside world, not as much about ourselves. Don't get me wrong, I've had strong personal realizations on LSD too, but the outside realizations are really the biggest thing I take away. There's a saying, and I don't know who came up with it, but it wasn't me, and it says, LSD is like Star Wars, mushrooms is like Lord of the Rings. So basically this is saying that LSD is more about the outside environment, like the universe and maybe a society as a whole, nature of space and time and all that, while mushrooms are more about our own personal narratives on this planet. I even made a video on this channel called 10 Realizations I Had on LSD, and they're all mostly about the outside world, such as time being an illusion, the infinite nature of the universe, and stuff like our consciousness continues after death. All that sorts of stuff. While, to be honest, I had little revelations about the outside world while on mushrooms. In fact, on mushrooms, I lost literally all touch with reality on a high dose. And that leads me to my next point. We seem to be more in control on LSD, even on a high dose. While on mushrooms, we can literally lose all sense of reality, and I mean all sense of reality. Let me explain the concept of time while on these two substances. On both substances, our reality of time is significantly altered. On LSD, I remember it being 11 p.m., and literally the next thing I knew, it was 2 p.m. That 3 hours of time literally felt like, 5 minutes if I had to just make up a time. However, it's noteworthy that During this time, reading the clock, I still knew what time was. I recognized that time was passing. I remember when I had started my trip, and I was able to make calculations as to when I would no longer be in this state of mind. I knew I wouldn't be in this high state of consciousness forever. However, on mushrooms, oh man, for me, as well as others I hear about, time in our minds literally just ceases to exist. While peaking on mushrooms, I would look at the clock and just see some random numbers that had no meaning to me. I had no idea that this was in fact time. I did not recognize that I would ever be out of this state. I literally thought I'd be trapped in this state of consciousness forever, all alone. And that's why the mushroom experience for me was so much scarier than that of LSD. Snapping out of the mushroom time realm was like snapping out of a dream for me. In my mind, time was frozen, and then all of a sudden it was just passing again. It's also important to note that because we seem to be more mindful on LSD, a little more grounded to reality, we remember more from the experience. On my heroic dose of mushrooms in silent darkness the following morning, I really could not remember much. It was literally just like trying to remember a vivid dream. You remember bits and pieces but don't really remember much. And if I hadn't written my trip report or script that day, I would have hardly remembered anything. However, on LSD, I remembered a lot more of my trips. And as far as the visuals go, much more visual hallucinations occur on LSD. This might also be why we're so much more mindful of the environment around us during an LSD trip, is because the visuals make everything seem so fascinating, while the visuals on mushrooms are lessened. And while they are still cool, we seem to be less fascinated by them while under the influence. One of the last things I'm going to talk about is the delusions. Just the things that you believe are true in the moment, but once you're sober again, you just think, what was I thinking? Basically, we are far more delusional on mushrooms in my opinion. I remember believing I was fighting a dark energy in the void of space, and if I lost the battle, all life on Earth would cease to exist. Luckily in my mind, I won the battle, and I remember thinking, phew, I just saved the Earth for 26,000 years. But in 26,000 years, the dark energy will return again, and I will have to battle it again. Also, in the morning, and this was a terrifying delusion, but when I woke up in the morning at 5 a.m. after the road trip, still feeling significant come-down effects, the thought that I might have killed every other person in my house crossed my mind, and I literally had to check that they were all alive, sleeping, in order for me to get that thought out of my head. And not just one person, I had to make sure every person in my household was alive before I could push the thought away. So yeah, these are the main key differences between these substances. But which would I say is better for spiritual development? In my opinion, there's no definitive answer for that question. I don't even know which helped me more. LSD helps me realize the fakeness of the ego, the fakeness of society, and basically made me wake up to the matrix, while mushrooms healed my soul in ways that I cannot explain. The purging, the dry shitting and barfing has had such profound impacts on me in ways I truly don't understand. My demons, all of the bad negative energy within me, was somehow purged out of me that night, about a month and a half to 2 months ago, and ever since then I have felt the best I ever have in my life. Sure, I have moments I'm not feeling great, but overall, looking back at it, I really have never felt better. At first, after the trip, I didn't consider that purging could actually help me. I thought it was just some random effect. But now I truly believe that the purging had massive impacts on my subconscious in ways that I just don't know. So basically, both these have helped me spiritually. And of course, they aren't the answer to all your problems or anything. Everything you do in your life has to be carried out under your own power, but these substances can be used as tools essentially to help to tell you what to do and give you insights on how to live your life and help you wake up to the true nature of life. That's about all I have for you guys today. If you made it this point in the video, I'm sure you like the content. Therefore, you should subscribe. I make content like this all the time, and also drop a like. It helps promote my channel so more people can view the lessons I'm teaching. As always guys, have a great day and peace.